As the holiday season is closely approaching, to get into the Christmas spirit, a lot of us have been turning to holiday movies. But not all Christmas movies bring us joy. Hi, I'm Stacey Taylor, and today I'm counting down the top 10 worst celebrity Christmas movies we wish were never made. So what Christmas movies do you not like? And let us know in the comments below. Coming in at number 10 today, we have Love Actually. It's been a debate every Christmas season whether the movie Love Actually is good or bad. Released during the holiday season in 2003, rom-com writer Richard Curtis' debut of the Christmas rom-com was a box office smash as it grossed in over $246 million globally against a $20 to $45 million budget. However, even though the film was such a hit in the box office, it didn't stop critics from ripping it apart every single Christmas season when it airs on TV. With the film containing a cast of several big-name stars, the film was marketed to be one of the best Christmas movies of the year when it was released, which makes you wonder why everyone hates the movie so much. Among Love Actually, more questionable politeness when Harry betrays his wife by purchasing a necklace for an employee, and the Prime Minister is also playfully wooing over the same employee, has conveyed some horrible messages when it comes to love. Also, the plot surrounding Jamie has also been criticized, as the character also falls in love with a woman he employs as a housekeeper who doesn't speak English. While it was meant to explore the idea of a mutual attraction between the two, it hasn't really sat well with feminist critiques. Aside from all the ethical concerns that the movie brings in, it's actually just a weird movie filled with a bunch of creepy characters that no one can really connect to. And number 9, The Princess Switch. With Netflix and Hallmark dominating the Christmas movie scene right now, they have this ongoing trend with movies that makes them become super cheesy fairy tales. While The Princess Switch has gone on to become one of the most talked about movies on social media, it's also been quickly regarded as one of the worst movies you'll either love or hate to watch every Christmas. Regardless of how bored we got watching this predictable movie, it seems like none of us could actually stop watching it. With the classic fairy tale story being overdone and becoming very mundane, the idea of a typical American baker from Chicago switching places with a royal duchess because they appear to be identical just seems too unrealistic. Also, we all couldn't stop pointing out that the storyline was oddly too similar to The Parent Trap, when both girls switched lives so the royal duchess could pretend to be a normal person before she got married to a prince. The overall movie just started to become extremely cringy, and the way the movie went on about handling Chicago scenes just made it look like everyone in Chicago never layered up, and that everyone just wears hats and says Chicago all the time, which isn't really accurate. The Princess Switch had to be one of the cheesiest movies ever made, and it makes us all wonder why we even finished watching it in the first place, or why we even continue to watch the sequels. Hey Peaches, are you enjoying this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming in at number 8, we have Santa's Sleigh. You probably could make a pretty entertainingly cheesy Christmas horror comedy from the idea of Santa's sleigh. The fact that Santa is actually the son of the devil, and he's out for revenge after being forced to deliver presents for the last 1,000 years after losing a bet, and finally starts to revert back to his demonic self, was just a really weird take when it comes to a horror Christmas movie. The movie had the potential to do so much better. With this Yuletide horror movie, it was definitely just a major disappointment. If the movie used real actors who had a niche for comedic timing and the ability to write some pretty good jokes, then this movie actually could have been pretty good. However, without those things, this movie was actually just more painful to watch than you would expect. After the movie hit the box office, Bill Goldberg would join the legendary Hall of Fame of wrestlers who tried to make the transition into horrendous actors right alongside of Hulk Hogan and John Cena. Santa's Sleigh stands to be a cheap movie that really didn't provide us with the endless entertainment like we were expecting it to. Number 7, Jingle All The Way. 10 minutes into the film Jingle All The Way, before we even learned the plot of the whole storyline, it would be exposed as we would learn that Arnold Schwarzenegger's character was a negligent father who didn't spend enough time with his family because he was too busy running a successful mattress company. While we continued on to watch the movie, we would realize that the whole thing was just one giant mess with no redeemable qualities. With there being a lot of violence and most of the film being pretty satire, the whole film just seemed to be a bit misguided when it came to the true spirit of Christmas. With a workaholic dad trying to make things up to his son, he promises to get his son the hottest toy of the season, which happens to be Turbo Man. And even though it's Christmas Eve, The toy is practically sold out. Arnold's character then tries to hunt down the toy when he runs into a mailman who happens to be on the same quest. With the clocks winding down, both men crack their moral codes before they start to learn the real meaning of Christmas. The movie initially was marketed as a family movie, but honestly isn't really aimed at kids as it's aimed more towards adults. For a Christmas movie, the film was also just a little too loud and violent, and the film was just more disturbing than it should have been for the Christmas season. And number 6, Four Christmases. Despite having a strong cast for Four Christmases, it would become a sour holiday comedy that suffered due to a bad script, with the storyline focusing on a couple who plans an exotic vacation and it falls apart due to bad weather. The unmarried couple would have to be forced to spend the holiday season with their families. While Brad counts the hours down till he can escape his crazy relatives, Kate begins to wonder about her choices and ponders over the question on whether her family members are actually crazy after all. With the movie being better than most Christmas films made these days, Four Christmases still remains the type of film you should only watch when you're trapped on an airline and can't sleep during the holiday season. With the stars being charmless and the script being cheerless, even the supporting cast couldn't seem to figure out what they could bring to the table to make the film relatively better. The film was honestly just too sparse in comedy to really be successful, and at times the film was honestly just one giant mess. And number 5, Christmas Cupid. As the snow begins to fall and we're all starting to realize that Christmas is actually around the corner, we've all been pretty stressed out. As many of us want to relax and get into the Christmas mood, a lot of us have turned to Christmas movies to help us do so. However, if you're looking for a Christmas movie to get you into the Christmas spirit, maybe leave out Christmas Cupid off your list. With the film being a little bit silly to watch, it has pretty much become a holiday staple of bad Christmas movies. With the film being about a famous starlet that visits a Hollywood publicist to guide her to her true love, it's a spin-off on The Christmas Carol, and it could have been a great idea. I don't know whether if it was just the acting or the script, but the film definitely just came off a little too dry. Now, love stories during the Christmas season aren't a new thing in Christmas films, and they pretty much have become a staple for the holiday season over the last decade, which is probably the reason behind most of us being so tired of Christmas movies these days. With the film still being an adaptation of The Christmas Carol, the only differences between the two films is that instead of being visited by the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future, the main character is visited by her ex-boyfriends. While the film did have some decent acting, there are better versions of The Christmas Carol out there, so maybe opt to watch one of those instead. And number 4, I'll Be Home for Christmas. In the original 1998 film I'll Be Home for Christmas, a college student who is estranged from his father would be lured home to New York for Christmas after he was promised he would receive a classic Porsche as a gift. After the football team dumps Jake in the desert in a Santa suit, he would be left without identification or money to help him make the journey home. With his girlfriend not knowing where he is, she accepts a cross-country ride from Jake's rival. The film could have done better if the cast just had a little more to work with, since a lot of the dialogue sounds like they were just making things up on the spot in an attempt to try to make the movie something more than it already was. While the film was going to be a cliche either way, the way the film was sugar-coated with the attractive cast to draw in views was honestly just a disappointment. With the overall message stating that Christmas is not where you spend it or how you spend it, the movie would explain that the true reason behind Christmas is to bring your family together. With Jake wearing a Santa suit the entire movie, there is a possibility that there is an audience that likes this movie. However, I think majority of this film only appeals to people who fail to care if nothing good happens in a movie as long as just nothing bad happens in it. And at number 3, The Holiday Calendar. One of Netflix's original holiday films, The Holiday Calendar, ended up being such a cliche filled with terrible plot twists. If the movie title didn't already give it away, The Holiday Calendar is about a holiday advent calendar, but not just any boring Christmas advent calendar. This one apparently has magical Christmas powers. When a struggling photographer, Abby, decides to go home for Christmas, her grandfather would gift her an antique Christmas calendar that belonged to her late grandmother. Now, without spoiling too much of the movie, I will say the calendar seems to predict the future, and it causes Abby to embark on this magical Christmas journey, which would cause this movie essentially to become a sugar cookie, what you're exactly getting yourself into by watching the movie, because it has all the right ingredients. It had the love, the magic, and presents, but the whole film could have been better if it just had the frosting on top. With the film being more restrained and more of a grounded movie when compared to other Christmas movies, it ultimately lost some of its candy-coated glee that made other Christmas movies so buzzed about when they were released. At number 2, A Christmas Detour. It seems like every year Hallmark releases a Christmas movie that makes us all want to run away as fast as we can, and A Christmas Detour is one of those movies, with the plot of the film being about two travelers becoming linked. When a snowstorm grounds their flight in Buffalo, Paige desperately needs to find a way to New York City to meet her fiance's parents, and it's up to Dylan, a fellow passenger and a guy she can't stand, to get her there. Hallmark has this idea that a good Christmas movie comes with a goofy script, irritating characters, and a very far detached engagement with characters, thinking that it will help us relate to them better. But it never does. With Paige's character being portrayed as this ditzy blonde, it pretty much came off to be quite annoying, and Dylan was frankly just boring to watch. If there was anything interesting to watch in the whole film, it was actually the unhappy married couple, Maxine and Frank. With poor CGI just inserted all into the film, like the holiday tree in the very beginning, it's very clear that everybody, including the director, were just going through motions on this one, and it could have been so much more if there was just a better script and proper direction. And at number 1 today, we have Black Christmas. One of the most boring Christmas movies I've ever had to watch was Black Christmas, which is pretty much disappointing because the way the horror film was marketed was definitely one giant way the industry catfished us into thinking that it was going to be a good film. Sometimes films should never be remade, and in this case, no one should ever try to remake the 1974 slasher film, as they would go on to ruin the horror movie for everyone. With the holiday film following a group of sorority sisters who become stranded at their campus during a snowstorm, they would soon find themselves being stalked by a man who didn't care if they were naughty or nice. With an attempt to build the franchise and bring back the legacy of the 1974 film had back into society, Black Christmas would instead just start to plummet. With the film lacking any sort of craft or talent, every piece of the film just fails. With it being overly exploitive and off-putting, it created an experience that made it pretty impossible to even justify what we were watching. With the original film being a cult classic, there was no reason to remake the film, and now it seems that the love we once had for it has just faded away. Well, that's it for this video, my little peaches. Until the next one, remember to stay juicy.